Welcome to QI, the quiz show that glows in the dark. Tonight we're peering through the gloom at subjects of illumination and invisibility. Joining me under the covers with a torch, a packet of crisps, and the latest edition of the Gentleman's Magazine, we have the enlightened Jack D. The illuminating Chris Addison. The incandescent Rich Hall. And that bright spark, Alan Davis. Now, should any of you wish to draw attention to your brilliance, you can light up my life in the following manner. Jack goes... Chris goes... Rich goes... And Alan goes... Good. Now... each of you should have a set of cards. During the course of the game, I want you to see if you can find out what these international symbols stand for. You can decide for yourself. You can write underneath, on top, beside. They are all recognised international symbols for some very truly real...
That's Lady Gaga.
You've already made your mind up. You've also got a question mark little joker card. One of the questions I asked tonight has the answer, basically, nobody knows. And if you can guess which... Yes.
Nobody knows.
There you are. That caught you by surprise. If you can guess which question it is to which there is an answer that nobody knows, you'll get extra points. Now, in 1879, the Blackpool Illuminations began. They were visited by up to 100,000 people from all over Britain and were so bright that they were described as artificial sunshine. And my question simply is, how many lamps did they use?
I love the idea that people at Blackpool consider this to be like sunshine.
Oh, are you saying we don't know? We do know, I'm afraid. Oh, we know precisely how many they used.
Oh, they did.
Hang on, 1879?
Yes.
So this is before the invention of the bulb?
Well done. Certainly before the invention of the filament bulb by Thomas Alva Edison, yes.
You know, he didn't have the idea for the bulb, he had an idea for something else. And he went, bing! Hey!
Hey, that's very good.
I'll do that instead.
Yes.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, you're right. It wasn't light bulbs as we know them. They were carbon arc lamps, which they're still used by the film industry right up until the 1980s. 100,000 people visited. My question remains, how many lamps did they use to draw that many people? 100,000. 12 lamps. You're damn close. It's 8.
Is it?
Yes. That's what's so extraordinary. 8 at a distance of 370 yards apart. It was still astonishing enough. No one had ever seen anything like it to draw crowds.
Because then there wasn't much to do, was there?
Because it caused light, and everything else was gaslight, which is a very different sort of light. And this was a white, bright, daylight sort of light.
So what did moths do before them?
I don't know what moths... I mean, why don't moths come out during the day if they're so fond of the bloody light? Really?
Maybe they could just sit still then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
It's very peculiar.
You know, Edison electrocuted an elephant. It's
did.
my favourite fact of all time.
Yes. Do you know why?
Yeah, it was a death sentence. He was carrying out an execution.
I think you might know this because you saw it on QR.
Yes.
The problem with joining you people so late is you've covered basically all human knowledge.
While you were saying, I was thinking, this rings a bell.
Maybe that's what I know.
But you are absolutely right. Yeah, there is film of it which you can see. It's a very...
Elephant snuff movies.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's true. It's very sad, very sad. But Blackpool, on the other hand, were keen to attract people, and it worked, as you probably know, and as you spoke of, as a lad from the northwest yourself, and in fact from all over Britain, people every September go, just as the season is ending, the illuminations go up and they attract millions of people. And, of course, fabulous celebrities come to turn on the... can you name some of the...
Well, once, I think Jane Mansfield did it
very
once upon a time.
Good, Chris Addison.
There
she is.
Yeah.
Jane Mansfield came...
Woohoo!
Yes.
And then the lads from Top Gear, so they made it.
The bloke on the left, can't believe it.
That's the mayor, I think.
Oh, this is terrific. The mayoress is delighted.
Yes, it's well. But other people have opened. Red Rum, they made a special sort of pedal so that when he trod on it, it turned on. That was in 1977.
And then they electrocuted him.
Michael Ball in 1997, and in 2006, Dale Winton. I think,
Oh, they should have electrocuted him.
I think they've peaked. Where can they go from there?
Exactly.
Dale's definitely...
They've reached the top, haven't they?
Yeah,
But it cost them £50,000 worth of electricity
To get
every
Dale
year.
Winton?
Well,
No, of electricity to get, to run the Illuminations.
not anymore, because they use those low-energy light bulbs. So there's no point going for the first 15 minutes of the Illuminations. You have to wait for it to warm up. The countdown. 3, 2, 1. Oh. Come back in 15 minutes. It'll be lovely.
Cost over £2.4 million to stage, but apparently it brings £275 million to the economy because so many people come to watch.
But it's free, isn't it? Yeah.
I know, but they buy fish and chips. They stay at
£275
night.
million worth of fish and chips.
It brings 3.5 million people, and they don't have to spend more than £7 for that to be the amount of money that they would do. Well, there you are. Yeah, the original Blackpool Illuminations consisted of 8 bulbs. Today, they're 6 miles long and use 200 miles of wire and 1 million light bulbs. Now, if you can dispel the shadows on this one for me, I'd be very grateful. Why did Mexican revolutionary Pancho Villa have to wait for the light? There he is, Pancho Villa.
He only had to wait till the banks were open before he could rob them.
Well, Pancho Villa was part of a war in Mexico.
He was. He's a great, yes. Quite a tremendous stature, but now reduced to a chain of tawdry Mexican restaurants where suburban bimbos go and drink margaritas for $2 a pitcher and
that's it.
Weep into their guacamole.
This is why you didn't get that gig in advertising.
Yeah.
But there was a 3-part war. There was the government of Mexico against 2 revolutionaries, Pancho Villa and...
is it Zapata?
Zapata, yes, the other one. Shoe, I think, in Mexican, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, in Spanish.
Whereas Pancho Villa means House of Pancho.
Yes, that's right.
He wasn't called Pancho Villa, was he? He took his name from his granddad, which is the best name I've ever heard, which is...
Aston.
Aston Villa. Perfect. It was Jesus, Jesus Villa, which just sounds like the Pope's holiday home. No, we go to...
Jesus Villa.
Jesus Villa, yeah.
It so happened that the American public were rather fascinated by this Mexican war, and different American film companies paid the different sides for the rights to film their battles. And Pancho Villa got 20% of the box office of the mutual film company who were on his side, as it were, but he had to wait until the cameras were set up and the light was right before he could begin the battle. And they made him dress up in a general's uniform. Usually he went casual, but they made him dress up in a general's uniform to look like that.
So just before they charged, did they get makeup and everything?
Yeah, but that wasn't quite that bad, but it was an extraordinary, bizarre war run for American studios. And the strange thing is that actually the reality wasn't that exciting, and they would reenact it back in America to make it look more bloody and dramatic. But they would use the footage of him pointing in his uniform.
Because he like lots of the Mexican revolutionaries sort of operated as bandits as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were sort of political armies, but they were bandits to raise money for their armies. And he held up a train. And he took 122 silver ingots and a bank employee, a Wells Fargo bank employee, hostage, and then forced Wells Fargo to help him sell the ingots with the hostage. It's fantastically...
Very good.
I can't cope with 2 intelligent, interesting people on this show.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard.
He didn't just say 120, it was 122.
Yeah.
Right there.
But it sticks with you.
Scholarly of you. Very impressive. We said on QI, we told you what Pancho Villa's last words were. I don't know if you remember, Alan, you were definitely there.
Turn the lights out.
Ouch.
No, don't let it end like this. Let me at least say something. Was apparently... But
Hang on, I've got it.
We've since discovered that this may be a myth, because his car was hit by 40 bullets and he himself by 9 dum-dum bullets, so he was probably killed instantly and said nothing. But I like the idea of someone being disappointed that they didn't have any last words to say.
Maybe it was reverse.
Yeah.
Don't park here.
Tell them I said something was his supposed last words. But, yeah. But, can you tell me the war where the first film footage was ever used?
Well, if you run past the Bay of Tapestry really fast, it kind of looks...
It's not one of our better-known wars. It's the Greco-Turkey War of 1897. And there was a British film cameraman called Villiers who took the footage and then got home and was really annoyed to find that someone else had reenacted the battles back home in England, and they were playing in the newsreels. Because this was... Yeah, the whole thing was that newsreel was so new that people were incredibly excited, and they didn't really know how reality looked far away in battles. And if you lived in London or in Bradford, wherever it might be, and you went to a newsreel place, you kind of believed what you saw. And so in the naval battles of the Spanish-American War, there was a guy who cut out battleships and pasted them on bits of wood and put them in a tank of water just an inch thick and had little bits of gunpowder that he lit, and had an office boy blow cigar smoke.
Michael Benty.
Like this. and it played to packed houses. People thought they were watching a real naval battle.
They just reenacted them back home.
Yes, they just took it on faith in those days, early on. And to be fair, to some extent, even today, most journalists who work in war zones will tell you they kind of sex up their video footage. They do a lot of with the camera, just simply to catch our interest.
I often wonder, people who report things like flower shows, whether they are just slightly cowardly war correspondents. They're working their way up, but they're just working with the gentle stuff first.
Yes, like start with the azaleas.
Yeah, something not too scary.
They say that the number one rule of battle photographers is you always run toward the gunshot when everyone else is running away from it.
Right.
Which I think, weeds out a lot of people right away. I'm going to shoot weddings.
Yes. So you come here. The earliest we can date back this idea of faking war photography to make it more interesting, to give it human interest, is in the 1857 to 58 Indian uprising, where the Secunderbag massacre was photographed, and the photographer just bestrewed it with human bones. Those were added by the photographer.
He carried them in a bag.
Well, I don't know where he got them from. I suspect he dug them up. But you can see literally skulls and femurs and rib cages. I mean, it certainly tells the story of some death going on, but it was a fake.
That guy did my wedding photography. I wasn't pleased.
He was old too, wasn't he? Let's be honest. He was very, very old. Now, what is this man about to do? It's to do with our theme, one of our I words.
Invisible.
Yeah, if I was going to say they're going to turn invisible, you're going to get terribly excited and imagine they're going to disappear completely. But nonetheless, it is technology that is on the way to invisibility. It certainly creates a transparent coat, as you will see. That's not a post. That's not a post effect. That is happening in real time. That's being filmed there. That's that, and that's the coat there, and that's it being filmed.
The two cameras, aren't there? There's a camera.
Yes. So what's happening?
Superimposing the front camera onto the picture on the back camera.
Essentially, that's the technique, and it does actually have interesting applications that are beginning to be developed, allowing pilots to see through the floors of their planes, for example.
It's just to scare the shit out of them. God, keep in mind of my job. Holy shit, keep looking up.
That could be the reason. But yeah, it's quite a good effect, isn't it? He's called Professor Susumu Tachi, and the cloak is made of a material called retroreflectum. And as Jack rightly spotted, it's projecting an image onto itself of what is behind the wearer. The computer generates the image that's projected, so the viewer effectively sees through.
That would really screw them up at airports, wouldn't it?
Oh, wouldn't that be very odd?
Going through security.
One of those.
It'd be great for talking to boring people. You could just look straight through them. What's going on behind them?
Yes. Cloaking technology, as we know, is at an early stage. The Romulans have it, I believe.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Ron Weasley's car can go invisible. Ron Weasley's dad's Ford Anglia.
Ford Anglia, yes.
Can go invisible.
That's true.
But that does wear the battery out.
Yes, exactly. And Harry has an invisibility cloak. There are some quite interesting technologies that make things invisible, which have some limitations. One is that it's only in infrared. Or one is on objects which are so small as they are already invisible to the naked eye. You see that thing you can't see?
Yeah.
Hello! I've just made it invisible. That kind of doesn't really work, does it? Interestingly, of course, in nature, they've got round this problem, not exactly of invisibility, but of, there is camouflage.
Chameleons and changing.
I saw an octopus once, and it appears to change the colour of its skin and just looks like a rock.
Yes.
Amazing to watch.
Yeah, and other cephalopods, notably the Hawaiian bobtail squid, like your octopus, can camouflage itself. But the one thing that might give you away if you camouflage yourself is your shadow. And this clever chap can even make his shadow invisible.
He's got iridescence that he can use to light behind him.
Very quick mind, you're absolutely right. He ingests bioluminescent food that goes into his stomach, and his stomach controls, by the use of oxygen, how much the bioluminescent food in his stomach shines, and it shines out and casts a light over his own shadow, thus dispelling it.
It's a lot of bother to go to, though, isn't it, to be honest?
It's a magnificent piece of evolution, really. Jim Lovell, who was the Apollo 13 astronaut, all his instruments died when he was a naval pilot, and he was at sea in complete blackness. I think there was no moon as it happened that particular night, and how could he find his aircraft carrier? And he could just see this very faint phosphorescent wake of the aircraft carrier, which itself was over the horizon. So he just followed it and followed it and followed it, and eventually he got to the aircraft carrier and landed on it. There's a lot of life at sea that is luminescent. It's quite beautiful.
It was a very rare occurrence.
Yes.
That luminescence happened every so often. When it happened to Lovell, it was a complete coincidence that it happened to be that day.
Right.
It wouldn't always have happened.
So he was a doubly lucky man.
Very lucky
surviving
man,
13 as well, yes.
Yeah.
So you knew the story already?
I did, yeah. Well, the moon, that's my thing.
It is, isn't it? I'd forgotten that. You're very much a moon chap. Extra points all the way to Chris Addison. We're beginning to get a little bit humiliated by him.
Yeah, might as well.
Chris, well, do you know what these mean?
I think I've got a guess.
Actually, during the Indonesian confrontation, as it was called, in the early 60s, the British Army were very puzzled as to how the Indonesians could travel in the darkest forest and they'd all stay together in single file completely. And they would tuck a rotting leaf into the back of their hats, and it gave off just enough phosphorescence for them to see the person ahead, and they could stay in absolute line.
Is that in any rotting?
I don't think it's any rotting thing. I think they knew which leaves to pick in the forest. Now, what do these people do for a living behind me here?
This thing's going to go off, isn't it? Ninja.
Oh!
Yeah, there you go. They're not ninjas.
No, they're not ninjas. The darkest clothes that ninjas have ever worn have been blue, possibly at night, but ninjas never wear black. The reason that ninjas...
Why? It's so slimming. I always thought ninjas might be fat, and that's why they...
Yes, in order to look better.
Yeah, is that better for me?
No, it's a sort of odd thing, is that there is a tradition in kabuki theatre that if anything is black, you can't see it. So people can move furniture around and things like that. Because they're wearing black, they are stagehands. And then, as a rather wonderful surprise in kabuki, they might have a stagehand suddenly kill someone. And because there'd be a ninja, because the ninjas were the secret assassins. And so this association, this pop association appeared that ninjas wore black, but they never did.
They didn't sort of fight, though, did they, ninjas? They were kind of... The point was they would run away a lot. I mean,
yes, well...
It was all distraction techniques, was how they used to overcome their foe. So they would throw talcum powder or whatever, and whilst you're distracted with the lovely skin, they'd run away and moisturise. And or they would throw cards or,
yes,
stuff like that, and then run, because they didn't want to engage.
Yes, what they weren't... They were the exact opposite of the samurai. Samurai were all about honourable man-on-man sword fighting, and ninjas were about, as you say, scouting, spying, deceiving, all kinds of different little tricks of one kind or another. Yeah. And indeed, those kind of things you mentioned were part of their repertoire. But what they never did was wear black. Staying with Japan for a moment, tell me something quite interesting about the original geishas.
They're all men.
Yes!
Oh, God.
Absolutely right. Bravo. Until 1751, all geishas were men. Originally, geishas were almost more like court jesters. They were not courtesans, as they're often considered to be now. And then it took about 100 years before there was sort of even number, and then the female geishas sort of overtook, and now they're all female. Now, how about an ingenious interlude? Have a look at this glass tank behind you and tell me how many balls there are in there.
1, 2, 3.
Well done, Alan.
4.
So far, so good.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, 5.
The worst episode in the National Lottery.
So how many are in there, would you say? 5. 5. Well, it looked like 5, didn't it? You might be rather surprised to know that there are actually over 1,000 glass balls in there. And we can show you perhaps a better view of how many there are. What's that? They're all invisible. And in fact, we have an example of precisely these kinds of... There they are.
Yeah, they're gooey.
They're really weird. They're called hydrogel beads.
But I can't see them.
You can see them, yes, and we deliberately allowed them to be visible. But in large glass tanks, they wouldn't be visible.
If you push one underwater, it goes invisible.
And they have the same refractive index as water, which, as you know...
Which means light can pass through at the same angle.
So they appear to be invisible in water.
We can't see it!
Yeah.
Quick, a hairdryer.
It's gone down the set.
Is there
suddenly going to start floating away.
Is there a use for them?
Yeah, there we are. I've got a glass of water there.
Are they worth £500 each?
Are they edible?
I wouldn't want to take responsibility, but I don't think they'll do you any harm.
Try one.
What are they used for?
Well, they have a commercial use, actually.
Oh, I broke it.
Oh, no. Is it burst?
Yeah, it burst.
No, it's sort of gone into pieces, actually.
It's like, yes, it's rather strange material. Can you guess their commercial use?
Packing things.
Oh. No, flower arranging is one.
Is it for packing goldfish when you get them through the...
Why aren't they making battleships out of this stuff?
Isn't it? Well, who knows? All kinds of new
Submarines.
uses
Make a submarine out of it.
I have to say, this feels gorgeous.
It's quite good, isn't it? It's quite a good feel.
Isn't it?
It's really... There's something quite gorgeous about that.
Yeah.
It's
have a play around with that later.
Yep, you might. Another use is the manufacture of...
Disgusting.
Another use...
Jack's going to put his willy in it.
I've already put it in that one.
It's weird, because when you put it in, you couldn't see it.
It has the same refractive index.
We told you to think of a comeback.
Yeah, the other use, apart from flower arranging, is the manufacture of contact lenses.
It'd really freak people out if you put them in your eyes, wouldn't you? You have big,
Well,
big
obviously, yes, not necessarily in the round.
Marty Feldman's contact lenses.
Any of these coming up in any of this?
Not yet, no. Nearly all the light in the world, of course, comes from our sun. In which month is the sun closest to the Earth?
Oh, that must be July.
Well, isn't it the same distance from the Earth all the time?
No, because it's an elliptical orbit.
January, February, March, April, May.
Yes, you're right, first time. January. Yes, people make the mistake that summer is somehow the time when the Earth is closest to the sun.
Well, look at that, is summer, mate.
No, summer is not when the Earth is closest to the sun. It happens to be in January in the southern hemisphere that summer, but in the northern hemisphere, the sun is closer to us in January than it is in July. The tilt of the axis, when the maximum amount of sunlight is on, you have the longer days. That's what makes the seasons, not the closeness of the sun to the Earth. What was interesting are the tropics. The first person to reason the tropics were not hotter because they're nearer the sun, but because a smaller area is lit by an equal amount of light compared to other latitudes was George Best. It was absolutely true. It was George Best who worked that out.
Oh, you've lost it now. You've completely lost it. You're going to have to hand this over
It was
to someone
George
else.
Best who was killed 2 years later in a duel in 1584.
Yeah.
But he was an
There's always
Elizabethan
gonna be another
scientist.
George
But
Best.
just for a second, didn't you think
Yes.
that the
No,
Northern
not for
Irish
a
hero might have
Yes.
worked?
Well, you come up with some interesting stuff when you drink that much.
You might have come up with that. It's a nice thought.
You know what I reckon?
My next question is this. Why can't blindfolded people walk in a straight line?
Can't see where they're going. Next question.
That is-
Mate, because
I'm afraid the chance has passed. The fact is, nobody knows. Well, there you go. Although it is a recognised phenomenon and people have theories about it, nobody's really quite sure why it should be that one's ability to walk in an absolutely straight line is completely compromised. As you know, even in short distances, people don't just go off straight, they actually curve. It was first discovered by a fellow who saw it in amoebas and thought, I wonder if it's true of humans.
who's blindfolded amoebas? How do you do it? They're so
How do you do
small.
such a thing? How do you do it?
Come here, you bastard.
He was
again.
he was called Asa Schaefer. So he asked a friend of his, who was he blindfolded, he instructed to walk in a straight line across a country field, and he plotted his friend's track, which was a clockwise spiral, until the man happened to stumble into a tree stump. But it was a complete spiral. And this is what people do. We've actually covered this before in QI, but more research is being done. Look, we have a little film of this actually happening. Someone made a cartoon of it. We didn't. Obviously, we don't have the budget. This is what he told him to do. Walk in a straight line.
Is that how he walks?
Well, apparently.
He was practicing to be a zombie.
And this is exactly it. And he was convinced he was going straight. The spiral went spiral, till he hit the stump. And that is how we will all do it. We will swear to ourselves, no, I'm going straight, I'm going straight, I'm going straight, I'm going straight. We hold our hands up in front of our heads as if that somehow helps.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we need a visual cue, like a mountain or the sun or something. But nobody knows why that should be.
Could it be, and this is, I'm being quite serious.
Yeah.
Well, as you'll see, it's not funny what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Could it be a preservation thing so that we have an inbuilt device that makes us go in a huge circle when we can't see where we're going, so you always get back to where you know where you are?
That's a very interesting point.
I think I've cracked it.
That is quite a convincing idea. I like it. I mean, it's
Can we make a bonfire, please?
it's as convincing as anybody else's theorem.
Further proof that the world is flat.
Maybe that's what it is.
Preservation device, stop you walking off the edge.
Now what let's try an experiment. I would like you all, and when I say all, I mean everyone, to close their eyes. So the audience included. Close your eyes, and all you have to do with your eyes closed is simply point northeast.
What?
Just point northeast.
Northeast.
Yes, in the northeast direction. Just point your hand in the northeast direction. Everyone do it. Everyone do it. Okay. Yep.
I haven't moved. No, I'm not pointing.
You were pointing down for some reason. It's actually just almost directly behind me. Closest was definitely Chris there. Yeah.
You're not going to tell me Chris gets points for that?
I suppose what's interesting is, unless you happen to belong to a very rare, unfortunately diminishing Aboriginal tribe in Australia, we just simply do not have an instinctive and automatic understanding of north and south wherever we are at whatever time. And it's linguistic. This particular tribe, in their language, they have no word for left and right. that from the earliest age, their children will be told, they say, oh, well, the salt's at your southeast elbow, and they'll just pick there. And everything is in absolute relation to north and south. To them. Nothing...
Salt cellars.
Well, whatever. Whatever. The point is that they always know, wherever they are, whether inside, outside, instantly, north, south, whether it's dark or light, wherever it is, and they use in all senses of directions, including their own bodies.
If you flew these people to the other hemisphere, would they think it was the other way, like water going down a plug?
It's an interesting point. I don't know. They're called the Pomperor people, and their language is called Cook Thayora. And unfortunately, it's a dying language, as so many of these Aboriginal languages are. I mean, around the world, over 100 languages a year become extinct. And, of course, our prepositions that we tend to use in terms of space, we also tend to use in terms of time. And we have this idea that the future is forward. The Amara Indians in South America think that the past is ahead and the future is behind.
That must make bill paying a lot easier.
It's just a different way of looking at things. They're thinking that the future there is behind, is the unknown. The future is there. We don't know what the future is. It's behind us. The point is these things are stuck in our language so much, we assume they're natural and right. And so when we come across another culture that thinks in another way, it gives us great pause, because these aren't necessarily natural and right. They're just
I still think
metaphors.
they are right.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I won't be swayed.
Fair enough.
When they say back in the day, they mean something that hasn't happened yet.
Yes.
How can you look forward to stuff if it's all behind you?
They would find you just as weird, that's all I'm saying. You know,
Now you're being rude.
It's time to admit that I had a sip of water and then I did swallow one of those.
You won't see it when it comes out.
Now, what happened when Colonel William Rankin got stuck for 30 minutes in one of these?
Oh, it was a puzzle and he had to try and solve it. Is that what it was?
You haven't got one of those, I think, but that is an example of... You've got international symbols.
Is it a diving bell?
It's not a diving bell. It is an international...
It's an expired parking meter.
Any other
Kaiser's
thoughts?
An igloo with a loft conversion.
These are all good answers. When I say it's the tallest structure that we know on the planet...
Man-made?
No.
Is it beneath the ocean,
No.
this tall structure? No.
It's in the other direction.
It's in the sky.
Yes.
A cloud.
Yes. It's a particular kind of cloud.
It's...
That kind of a cloud. That was its symbol.
A fluffy cloud.
It's a cumulonimbus. It's kind of anvil-shaped.
He was stuck in there for half an hour?
He was stuck in there for half an hour, yes. He was a US pilot, and he ejected.
But he'd opened his chute.
He opened his chute, but it was a half an hour inside this thing, being buffeted about.
So how tall was the pole that Simon's on?
You may have missed the point. So anyway, they get up to about 23,000 metres high, which is fantastically high. And he was buffeted about it. He did survive. His eyes were bleeding, his ears were bleeding. He was pelted with hail. He was in a terrible state, but he did survive. The only person who's known to have fallen down through one of these structures and survived. Anyway, listen, what use, while we're with clouds, what use to a pilot is a morning glory?
Oh, no.
The joystick fails.
He's smiling, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it's the co-pilot's joystick.
Maybe that's why they always sound so relaxed. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on board.
Well, aside from the possibility of
It's
what a
something
morning
to do
glory...
with the sunlight coming over the horizon or something.
Well, no, it's an annual event that takes place in northern Queensland, Australia, called the Morning Glory, and it's a remarkable cloud system. It's really amazing. We've got a picture of it. It can be up to 600 miles long. It's as long as the United Kingdom. Wow. Look at that. There. And it's over Burketown, which has a population of 178 people. But lots of people come, and the reason they come is apparently if you're a gliding pilot, you get the ride of your life. It can go at 35 miles an hour, this cloud. Zooms, and inside it, apparently it's the most exciting thing that you can experience.
And you bump into a bloke with a parachute. Get off!
Eyes are bleeding.
Did you see the sign?
Oh, dear.
And that's the only place where a cloud like that falls?
Yeah, it's the mother of them all. And apparently soaring along it is just the greatest experience you can have. Indian granny clouds. What can you tell me about an Indian granny cloud?
Did it win? The Indian granny cloud win the 2:30 at Kempton Park.
Is it a fart in a restaurant?
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
An old lady does a pump in a curry house.
Did they go up in the sky and then can't remember what they went up for?
Now, think of cloud in the 21st century. What other use has cloud been put to as a word?
That's a computering thing.
It's a computing term, yes.
Yeah.
This is a scheme whereby grannies in England, using Skype or some similar kind of technology, teach and educate and inform and enlighten children in India, all the way from England. It was started by a Professor Sugata Mitra. How to make jam, possibly. They tutor in Indian classrooms where they're short of teachers. And apparently it's been an enormous success.
Why grannies?
Well, because they've got a bit of time on their hands and because they care.
Drop one, pearl one.
Yeah.
Imagine the exports of Werther's originals to India.
They're all listening to Michael Ball records.
So what we're looking at, anyway, with your symbols, are part of what is known as the International Cloud Atlas. Yeah?
Right.
And can you tell me what
they
they
represent
are?
countries.
No, they
On an
represent...
atlas.
No.
Is that what?
They
I don't really listen in that, do I?
they represent
I'm a
types...
teacher. I bet you're a teacher. He reminds me of all my kids.
They represent a type of cloud.
It just looks like Simpleton Snap.
It does, doesn't it? I know. But what did you think they were before you knew they were clouds? Did you have any idea?
this one.
Had you written anything
I
on
thought
them?
they were things to help traumatised children or something. Tell me what you think.
I have elderly use handbrake.
Yes, very elderly
That's
use
fantastic.
handbrake. Very good.
You call that pregnant? This is pregnant.
Very good.
That's actually E.T. being quite rude.
I don't know what it means, but it's rude.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you are, the International Cloud Atlas.
Yeah.
There were three forms, the cumulus, the
Stratocumulus.
the stratus,
Nimbus.
and the cirrus, the fluffy one, yes, exactly. And then all the mixtures of those in between, the altocumulus, the stratocumulus, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Now, it's that time of night when we grope our way towards general ignorance at the end of the tunnel. So fingers on buzzers, please. Name the largest black body in the solar system.
Oprah Winfrey.
Whoa! Oh, Rich! Oh! In the solar system.
Black hole.
Largest black.
If there was a black hole in the solar system, it would be in real trouble. Yeah.
I don't know any other black things in the solar system.
Well, that's the thing. The strange thing is, it's the sun.
Oh, I see.
A black body in cosmology is something that doesn't reflect, and the sun doesn't reflect anything. It only radiates. So it is far and away the blackest body in the solar system. So
that's cheating.
It seems to be a little bit of a cheat question, but had you known the answer, it wouldn't have been a cheat, would it?
So if you were to shine a light on the sun, which would be pointless, I accept that.
Yes, it wouldn't reflect off it. In the solar system, there is no other body so reflective. The moon, for example, is nothing but reflective. It gives off nothing, but reflects all the light of the sun.
Same as us.
But the sun reflects nothing. How long does light from the centre of the sun take to reach the Earth? Yes.
Now, I know this. Well, it might not be the centre, that sounds like a trick, but the light from the sun takes 8 minutes.
Oh, dear. The thing is, it actually takes 100,000 years to get from the centre of the sun to the surface of the sun.
8 minutes.
But he was absolutely right. From the surface of the sun to the Earth takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Yes, you did actually, and you're absolutely right. From the surface of the sun, it's 8 minutes 26 seconds. Right? But the photons have a very busy time. They have an enormous amount of work to do right in the middle of this gigantic system. How many Earths could you fit in the sun? Were you able to do such a thing?
4. Easily.
Yes. That's quite true. I can't deny that.
400,000.
Maximum number is 1.3 million.
3 million Earths.
It's responsible for 99.8% of the mass of the solar system is the sun.
Really?
Yeah.
That's extraordinary.
It is. There's a lot of it. What happens to alcohol when you bring it to the boil?
Now. You boil it off, don't you, Chef?
Yes, you do. You waste it. Whoa! That's it. It's nothing to do with me. I didn't touch it.
There's this idea that it all evaporates and so on. In fact, it takes a very long time to evaporate all the alcohol, 3 hours at least before you get rid of it. And flambeing only gets rid of, if you like a crepe Suzette or something, if you like the brandy in that manner, that only gets rid of a quarter of the alcohol, in fact. So the idea that you're burning it off, it's not particularly important unless you're drinking very, very carefully so that you know that you're exactly under the limit. Then you have a crepe Suzette and drive and are surprised by the fact
We've all
that
been
you're
there.
over the limit.
Crepe Suzette.
And the same goes to a Christmas pud then. When you put the brandy on it, give it to the kids and say, there won't be any alcohol, we burnt it.
Exactly. That's right. There
It does
will
have
be
a
alcohol.
20p piece in it, might choke them to death.
So could you get done for driving?
Yes, if you had enough of it, yes, you could. Eat driving, it's a heck of a thought. Interestingly, if you add alcohol to a recipe and you don't heat it at all, just leave it uncovered overnight, it will actually get rid of more alcohol than by flambeing it. 30% of it will go, just by natural evaporation.
So if you leave a glass of wine out at night, the alcohol will evaporate.
Some of the alcohol will evaporate.
Or someone will come down and drink it. 30% of it's gone.
How much alcohol are they allowed to drink on US Navy ships?
A tot of rum.
A tot of rum per man? No. All US Navy ships have been dry since 1914. No alcohol at all.
Well, the French riot police are having a riot over not being able to drink at lunchtime, aren't they?
Oh, was they?
Yeah, because they're now being told they must drink nothing at all, but they've always been allowed to have just a beer or some wine at lunchtime. He's not really drinking.
It does not count.
No, it does not count. And they've always been allowed to do it, and they still do it. And now the government saying, we don't think it's such a good idea that you should sit in your van drinking beer, which is, there was a photograph taken of all these riot police. Where is the riot?
Fantastic. Well, there you go. How many eyes does a no-eyed, big-eyed wolf spider have? Yeah.
8.
Oh! Dang it.
None.
Yes! It's, after all, a no-eyed...
It's a no-eyed, big-eyed wolf spider.
But all big-eyed wolf spiders do have 8 eyes, except the no-eyed big-eyed wolf spider, which is a member of
I feel genuinely really stupid because you actually gave me the answer in the question.
I did really.
The worst one to have got wrong in many respects.
But the reason is it's a member of the same order of 8-eyed spiders, but it's evolved to live in a cave where there is no light, and so it has lost all its eyes. There it is, rather grim-looking creature. These are in Kauai, in Hawaii. Kauai. Yeah, Kauai, and they're getting very, very rare. But there you are. Little things have no eyes at all.
But they can walk in a straight line now.
And so, from the collisionist shadows of general ignorance, we emerge into the unforgiving light of the scores. And my goodness me, aren't they interesting? Well, tonight's indisputable Illuminatus with 3 whole points is Rich Hall! Oh! Burning brightly in second place with -1, Jack D! Oh. Despite his stunning knowledge in so many areas, he did fall into a few of our little heffalump traps. So, in third place, guttering and sputtering a little at -9, Chris Addison. But cast forever into outer darkness with -45 is Alan David. That's all from this frankly brilliant edition of QI. It's lights out now, and good night from Chris Rich, Jack Allen and me. I leave you with this from Stephen Wright. Light travels faster than sound, and isn't that why some people appear bright until you hear them speak? Good night.
Next, fasten your seatbelts for 80 minutes of glossy first-class American drama on BBC Two with the feisty flies of Pan Am.